Tonight to remember the unforgettable words of Tim Russert of 16 years ago. Florida, Florida, Florida. We have breaking news tonight about an important new tracking survey of early voters and likely voters in Florida. This is the first poll in Florida that includes actual early voters, how they have voted. So this poll is giving us a picture of the early voting results in Florida right now. And if we can get data like this for only one state, Florida is the state we want. Florida is, once again, the most important state on the electoral map because Democrats and Republicans all agree that Hillary Clinton has alternative routes to an electoral college victory that do not have to include winning Florida. But Donald Trump has no other way. It is virtually impossible to win the Electoral College for Donald Trump without Florida's 29 Electoral College votes. Florida is do or die for the Trump campaign, and Donald Trump's campaign schedule proves that. Donald Trump has 3 campaign events tomorrow in Florida. Hillary Clinton was in Florida today, but tomorrow she will be in Arizona trying to take a Republican state away from Donald Trump. The Clinton campaign is also purchasing TV ad time in Virginia, Colorado, and New Mexico, and Michigan, states where she is leading Donald Trump, but wants to prevent any tightening of the race in those states. But none of that will matter. None of it will matter. None of what's going on in any of the other battleground states will matter if Hillary Clinton wins Florida. Some observers have joked that Donald Trump seems to be running for president of Florida, but that's because Florida means everything to the Trump campaign, and I mean everything. And tomorrow morning, a new tracking survey of Florida voters conducted by Target Smart and the College of William and Mary will be released in full. That survey contains the most important news yet about the early vote in Florida. And joining us now with an advanced look at the data that will be fully released tomorrow is Tom Bonnier, the CEO of Target Smart, a political data firm. Tom, what are the basic results you're finding? What is the state of the race in Florida now with all the information you have?
Lawrence, so in our survey, and as you said, we're releasing the full results tomorrow, but we're excited to be here to share these results for the first time with anyone publicly. We see this race as a 8-point spread in favor of Secretary Clinton, 48-40, which really is challenging the conventional wisdom of what we've seen so far. I will say, in what we're seeing, as has been noted on your show and elsewhere on the network, a lot of the vote in Florida has already been cast and elsewhere. As of this morning, over 3.6 million votes have been cast. And so what's unique about this survey is our ability to actually poll people who have voted and see where they are. And there's been a lot of analysis of who's voted by party, but really no sense given of how they're voting. And really what's fueling this, honestly, somewhat surprising 8% margin for Secretary Clinton is the fact that she's performing incredibly strongly with registered Republican voters. So what we're seeing in this survey is Secretary Clinton is winning 28% of registered Republicans who have already cast a ballot in Florida. And that's a pretty substantial universe.
Tom, let me stop you right there. You're going to have to say that sentence again because the political media out there is taking notes right now. That is a stunning figure that you just announced.
It is.
28% of Republican early voters in Florida voting for Hillary Clinton.
That's right. So this includes voters who have voted by mail, absentee voters who tend to trend more Republican, and then also voters who have voted early vote in person tend to trend more Democratic. But that said, keep in mind, we're talking only about voters who are registered Republicans, and 28% of those voters are crossing over and voting for Secretary Clinton. When we look at the other side and we look at registered Democrats, there are no such defections. Donald Trump is winning only 6% of registered Democrats who have voted so far in this election. And when we look at the overall landscape, there's almost an identical number of registered Republicans and Democrats who have voted. It's a difference of about 0.4%. So this is really making up the difference that we're seeing in this poll is this substantial crossover vote.
And what is the Clinton winning percentage at the moment with early voters?
So overall, she's up 28 points, and she's at, I believe, 53% with early voters.
So Hillary Clinton is at 53% just with the early vote.
That's right.
And so going into Election Day, this is a survey in which you have actual results. You've spoken to actual voters. You've got their results. And then you also project what likely voters are likely to do on Election Day. And so the combination of those two things, what looks like a big win, an over 50% win, 53% win for Hillary Clinton and early voters, combines with what happens on Election Day, and that's where you get Hillary Clinton ending up with 48, Donald Trump with 40 in Florida.
That's right. It's this massive 28% margin. It's a significant crossover. We've been hearing in this election really from the beginning, since the general election started, that there was a significant universe of registered Republican voters. We've seen this at the top of the ticket with Republican elected officials who have been defecting and saying they could not support Donald Trump. But there's been an open question as to when it came time to vote, would these voters actually walk into the polling place, and would they be able to cast a vote for Secretary Clinton? And then also a second question of how much enthusiasm would we see among these voters? And the numbers we're seeing, again, this massive lead with 28% of registered Republicans crossing over and voting for Secretary Clinton suggests that, yes, these are people who have already voted, that, yes, these Republican voters are not just saying to pollsters for months that they're going to cross over and vote, but they are literally doing it in Florida and likely elsewhere. And it speaks to the intensity that these are voters who are not waiting for Election Day. They're getting out, in some cases, a week, 2 weeks before Election Day to cast a ballot.
So, Tom, this is the voter personification of the never Trump people that we've been seeing on shows like this for months now, saying that they would not vote for Donald Trump. And as you say, it's been a little bit of a mystery of what will they do. Will they go third party? Will they not vote? Will they vote for Hillary Clinton? 28% of registered Republican voters in the early vote in Florida voting for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's important to keep in mind, and what makes this survey unique in our partnership with William and Mary and our team at Target Smart, is that we are actually compiling the data in terms of each, on an individual level, who is voting each day. And so when I say over 3.6 million voters have voted, we have that list. Now, keep in mind, we don't know how they voted. That's not reported. That's why we poll. But we're really combining the analysis, the great analysis that folks have done looking at the early vote data, and what has been lacking in a lot of polling out there, and actually being able to survey these people who have voted. And that's how we were able to draw this conclusion. And that's why, even though these results may seem surprising at face value, when you dig in deeper and you look at these early voters and you see this crossover, and I will say, these are voters who are actually, we've seen evidence that they are returning to the Republican fold down ticket. We did look at the U.S. Senate race, and that's still a very close race. But we are seeing these Republican voters who are crossing over and voting for Secretary Clinton were then going back and voting Republican in the Senate race. So it really is an interesting crossover effect. It is completely consistent with, as you mentioned, the Never Trump movement that we've been seeing really from the outset of this general election. And for that reason, it's not as surprising as you might think.
And Tom, just quickly before you go, because I know people are, tweeting all over the country right now and texting this, the methodology of how you know how the early voter has voted.
So the Florida Department of Elections actually produces a report every day saying there's a list of people who have voted. Again, it's important to reinforce here because people often hear this and they get a little bit frightened by hearing this. It doesn't say which candidate they supported, to be clear about that. It simply says that they've cast an early vote. And that gives us the ability to match that back to our data and go back and survey these people and find a little bit more about the ballot that they cast as they voted early.
So you basically exit poll them by calling them. You say, okay, this person's voted. Here's the number of people who voted. Let's call a bunch of them. Let's get a sample. Let's see what they tell us about who they voted for.
That's right, though I'd even add that it's significantly more accurate than exit polls. We all remember in 2000 when the exit polls got it wrong. In this case, because we know exactly the distribution by age, gender, and party, we can construct a sample that's perfectly representative of the people who have voted thus far.
Tom Bonnier, thank you very much for this exclusive look at your new data tonight. Very, very important. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you joining us. And we're joined now by Elise Jordan, former advisor to Senator Rand Paul's presidential campaign and an MSNBC political analyst, Maria Teresa Kumar, president and CEO of Voto Latino, an MSNBC contributor. And Elise, I want to go first to you. These are your Republicans we're talking about. And in Florida, we have 28% of registered Republicans voting for Hillary Clinton.
That's absolutely staggering if the number holds. I really had in my head that Donald Trump probably was going to win Florida, albeit it was going to still be a very close race. But this would basically, if this percentage holds and Republicans are coming out in such a strong percent for Hillary Clinton, he is in huge trouble in the Sunshine State. You know, consider that exit polls in 2004, Republican voters, 6% voted for John Kerry. In 2008, 9% voted for Barack Obama. If 28% of Republicans in Florida are voting for Donald Trump, he has